Good morning.
Good morning.
Our session today is about punctuating writing. So let's make a start. So our aims and outcomes. By the end of this session, you must use full stops, capital letters, question marks and exclamation marks correctly, and always use a capital letter for the personal pronoun I. Know what a comma is and when to use commas. Use apostrophes to show where missing letters go, so such as don't. You should know when to use colons, know when to use it with an apostrophe or it without an apostrophe. Know when to use an apostrophe to show belonging and describe what inverted commas are used for. And you could understand and apply the correct punctuation rules when using inverted commas. Okay. So what you need to know at level 2, you're expected to know how to correctly use apostrophes, commas, inverted commas and colons. But remember, you should also know all the skills from lower levels, such as capitalisation, so putting your capital letter in the right place, knowing when to use them, full stops, question marks and exclamation marks. So we're going to watch a video about commas, followed by another one about the comma splice. So if you just bear with me. Share this with you.
Commas. A comma marks a slight break between different parts of a sentence and, when used properly, can make the meaning of a sentence clearer. These are the main cases when you need to use a comma.
In lists. In direct speech. To mark off parts of a sentence.
Using commas to separate items in a list. Example.
Don't forget the passports, the tickets, the travel guide and the money.
You usually don't need a comma before the final item in the list. However, in some cases, it can improve the understanding. Example.
There's a choice of tuna, beef and ham and cheese.
The comma makes it clear that ham and cheese is one filling and not separate items.
Using commas in direct speech. A comma is used to introduce direct speech and at the end of a passage of direct speech. Examples.
Dan mumbled, "All right then." "All right then," mumbled Dan.
Note that the comma is inside the speech marks. Direct speech can be broken up with the information about who is speaking. In this case, you need 2 commas, one to end the first passage of speech and another before the second passage. Example.
"Yes," she said, "I will marry you."
Using commas to separate parts of a sentence. Commas are used to separate a part of a sentence that is an aside and not essential to the understanding of the main sentence. Example.
She will, of course, be travelling by car.
Commas are also used in complex sentences to separate the subordinate clause from the main sentence. Example.
If you build it, he will come.
The comma is used when the subordinate clause comes at the beginning of the sentence.
If the main sentence appears first, a comma is not normally needed.
If the subordinate clause appears in the middle of a sentence and is non-essential, it is separated by a pair of commas. Example.
Greg, who has 2 kids, works nights.
The main sentence is, Greg works nights. The fact that he has 2 kids is extra non-essential information, so we separate it with commas.
If the clause contains information that is essential to the meaning of the sentence, commas are not used.
To check if you've used a pair of commas correctly, try removing the information within the commas altogether, and then see if the sentence still conveys the same meaning.
To recap, commas are used in 3 main ways. In lists,
I would like a sandwich, crisps, and a drink.
in direct speech,
I would disagree, said Martha.
and to mark off parts of a sentence.
My uncle, Jim, is coming to stay.
Okay, we're going to watch another video before we move on, also about commas. I'll just share that with you.
One of the most common punctuation mistakes is the comma splice. The comma splice occurs when 2 complete sentences are separated by a comma instead of the correct end of sentence punctuation. The error occurs because the sentences appear to be so closely related, but the correct punctuation marker is a full stop, or occasionally a question mark or exclamation mark. Alternatively, you can combine the sentences into one compound sentence. Compound sentences are joined by one of the 7 coordinating conjunctions.
For,
And,
nor,
but,
or,
yet.
so.
The first letter of each of them spells fanboys. For example,
Jake works 6 days a week, but he gets Mondays off.
a comma is usually placed before the conjunction unless the 2 sentences are very short. For example,
Stay put and tidy your room.
alternatively, you can combine 2 ideas into one complex sentence using a subordinating conjunction, such as if,
While,
although,
because,
and since. A subordinating conjunction allows you to play around with the meaning of the sentence. For example,
it promises to be a good weekend if Ethan and Hetty are coming to stay.
it promises to be a good weekend, although Ethan and Hetty are coming to stay. Note that a comma is not needed. A complex sentence can begin with the subordinating conjunction reversing the sentence. For example,
Although Ethan and Hetty are coming to stay, it promises to be a good weekend.
if Ethan and Hetty are coming to stay, it promises to be a good weekend. If you're starting a complex sentence with a subordinating conjunction, a comma is used.
To recap, avoid the comma splice. Never separate 2 complete sentences with a comma. Use the correct end of sentence punctuation or an appropriate conjunction. My day is usually very busy, yet I find it quite fulfilling. While my day is usually very busy, I find it quite fulfilling.
Okay. So, does anyone have any questions about the videos? Okay, so there's a lot of information to take in there, but we're going to go through that now. So when to use a comma and in lists here. So commas are used to separate items in a list. You don't put a comma before the word and in a list. So before the final item in a list, you'll have and followed by the final item, and you don't need a comma there. I got GCSEs in maths, English, PE and art. So we can see the commas after maths and English, but we don't need one between PE and art. We've got the word and. So have a look at these three sentences and think about where the commas should go. Excuse me. So I'll give you a moment to have a look at them, and then you can tell me. So if you'd be ready to tell me, please, where the commas should go in those sentences.
Good morning. The office shut at 6 on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
Good. So we don't need good. So we've got the comma after Mondays, but we don't need another one. Well done. Okay, the second sentence. Can anyone tell us where the comma goes in that sentence, or the commas rather?
Comma goes between 3, 4, 6.
Good. So after 3, 4 and 6, but we've got or between 7 and 9. We don't need a comma there. Well done. And finally, bring some ID, such as a passport, driving license or bank card.
Comma goes in between passports.
Good. Between passport and driving license. Well done. Good. So using commas in direct speech. So we use commas to show when someone is talking before speech. The boss said, comma, we'll finish early this Friday. So before you open the speech marks, you use a comma. And also after speech. We'll finish early this Friday, said the boss, and there's the comma, before the end of the speech marks. And mid-speaking. So if the sentence of speech, or the words in the sentence that are the speech are split, then you need two commas. Yes, said the boss. So yes is put in speech marks by itself, but it's not the end of the sentence that was spoken. So after yes, we put a comma. Yes, said the boss, we'll finish early this Friday. So there's some examples, and now if you have a look at those two sentences, where should the commas go?
After ask, Ben asked.
Yes, good. Ben asked, what time does the shop open? So the comma goes after asked and before we open the speech marks. So how about number 2?
It goes on weekdays, after weekdays.
Good.
Then after Raj.
Good. So after the word weekdays, we'll have a comma before we close the speech marks. Replied Raj, and then another comma after the word Raj before we reopen the speech marks to complete that speech sentence. Good, well done. So separating the parts of a sentence with a comma. So before a conjunction. So he tried hard, but didn't get the job. So the comma is is before the conjunction, but. Giving additional information, so using a subordinate clause. So a subordinate clause is when there is a clause in the sentence that gives additional information, but it does not make sense on its own. The main sentence is the main information, that does make sense on its own without the subordinate clause. And we need commas to separate the main sentence from the subordinate clause. So the warehouse, comma, where I work, comma, is on the business park. And joining two statements, before starting work, I go to the gym. So when addressing someone or after introductory words. So you're addressing someone by name. Bina, can we postpone our meeting? So we have a comma after the name. And then the introductory word in the response, yes, comma, that's a good idea. So it could be no, comma, I'm not available, something like that. Or no, I need to do the meeting now. And then you would have a comma after the no. So the introductory word and then a comma. So have a look at these sentences. Where do you think the commas, where do you think the commas should go? So if I read the first one out loud, and then if someone, so he applied for the job, but missed the closing date.
After the job.
Good, after the job. He applied for the job. Let me see if I can add that in. So he applied for the job. Well, it's not going to work. Just hold on. Applied for the job, but missed the closing date. Okay, good. The interviews for the warehouse jobs will be in the main office. The interviews for the warehouse jobs will be in the main office.
After the job.
So we will have one after jobs. I don't know if you can see, I've just added a little comma there, but there's another one. So the interviews for the warehouse jobs will be in the main office. So that sentence has a subordinate clause.
Is it after the interview?
After interviews, well done. So so we could have that. The interviews will be in the main office. So that's the main clause, but we've added additional information, which interviews for the warehouse jobs. So that additional information or subordinate clause needs commas before and after it. Okay. In a hard contest, our company won the export prize.
After the contest.
Good. In a hard contest, our company won the export prize. Good. Yes, the manager is on annual leave.
After yes.
After yes.
Yes, so it's the initial word in the sentence responding to a question, that one. So is the manager off today? Yes, the manager is on annual leave. Good, well done. So we're going to watch another video, and this is about the incorrect use of the comma, also known as the comma splice. So it's when comma is used where a full stop would do. Okay, so just so actually we already watched that video, didn't we, the comma splice? I'm not sure why it's telling me to watch it again. Okay, so the comma splice, we watched that at the beginning when we watched about commas. So a comma splice is something we should not use. So it's when a comma is used incorrectly, where a full stop or other punctuation would be the most appropriate. So a comma splice, known as a run-on sentence, a comma is wrongly used in place of a full stop, and it should be 2 sentences. So an example here, I got 5 GCSEs at school, comma, now I am doing a plumbing apprenticeship. So that should be 2 sentences, or rather than a comma, a conjunction such as and, but not a comma. So we've got some examples here and then how they should be punctuated. The office is open 5 days a week. It is shut at the weekend. So they've used a comma after week, and we can see it should be a full stop. If you look at the sentence underneath, it should be a full stop. It should be 2 sentences. Number 2, it is going to be a busy shift, comma, there are 20 orders to process. So again, it should be full stop. It is going to be a busy shift, full stop, there are 20 orders to process. And number 3, do the urgent orders first, we can sort the others later. So it should be, do the urgent orders first, full stop, we can sort the others later. So inverted commas are also known as speech marks, and they are used to show direct speech, which is reporting or the written version of what someone has said out loud or what someone says out loud. There are rules for how they should be used. So the end punctuation marks in the speech come within the speech marks. So here we have an example. Can you answer the phone? John asked. So can you answer the phone is a question that John is asking. The speech marks around that sentence and the punctuation mark, the question mark, is within the speech marks. Amir said, I'm sorry, I'm late. So also we can see the comma before we open the speech marks there. I'm sorry, I'm late, and a full stop after late, which is again within the speech marks. If direct speech comes after text that isn't spoken, then you need to use a comma before the speech and start and finish the speech with inverted commas. So we can see an example. Amy said, you've been late every day this week. So after Amy said, we have a comma before we open the speech marks. So it's separating the speech from the other parts of the text, just showing us what should be spoken out loud or what is spoken out loud within that text. So Amy said, comma, open speech marks, you've been late every day this week. Need a full stop at the end and then the final inverted commas. So if the direct speech makes a complete sentence, it must start with a capital letter after the first inverted comma. So using inverted commas, how should these sentences be punctuated? Do you want to go to lunch early? Sam asked. And the first one is done for you. So we've got open speech marks. Do you want to go to lunch early? Question mark. So remember that's within the speech marks, which then close. Sam asked. Do you want to go to lunch early? Sam asked. So the next one, number 2. Katie said, I am going to the stock room. What punctuation should we have there?
Comma after Katie said, invited comma from I am going to the stock room and close, full stop, then invited comma again.
Good. So let's see. So yeah, so comma after said, inverted commas open. I'm going to the stock room, full stop, inverted commas closed. Well done. The next one, Imran, serve that customer please, said Grace.
Number 3, invited comma before Imran and close comma, invited commas, and Imran, please serve the customer.
Let me just,
Yes.
I'll put them in so you can see. So Imran, serve. So where do you want to close the Imran? Serve that customer, please, said Grace.
It's confusing now.
Yeah, no worries. Does anyone else want to say what they think?
After, please.
Yeah, so we close them there. So there's our inverted commas. We've done those. Where should any other punctuation go?
Comma after please, and invited comma said Grace. Open and close with full stop.
Sorry, say that again.
Comma after please.
Yeah.
Invited comma after said Grace and close one with a full stop.
So we will have a full stop at the end.
Yeah.
We don't need inverted commas around said Grace because that's not spoken out loud. The spoken out loud part, you've already given me that. That's correct. Imran, serve that customer, please. So we've just got a missing comma.
Okay.
So where do you think the missing comma should go?
After Imran.
Yeah, Imran. So it's that first word addressing someone by name. Imran, serve that customer, please, said Grace. So let's check. Okay. Well done. And number 4, Kyle asked, is there any post to take today? Is there any post to take today?
Invited comma Kyle asked and closed.
Just hold on. So
yeah.
Where should I open the inverted commas? What's the first word that's spoken out loud? So what's Kyle asking?
Is there any post to take today?
Good. So that's what he's asking. That's what's out loud. So we start the inverted commas there and finish them at the end. That shows us which part is spoken out loud. So what other punctuation do we need?
We need comma after asked.
Good. Comma after asked.
Full stop after today.
So is it a full stop?
Yes.
He's asking. So there is a punctuation mark there. You've got the position right, but what punctuation mark should we have? If someone is asking,
question mark.
then
Question
mark.
Question mark.
Well done. And there's one more thing that needs to be changed, thinking about capital letters.
Is.
Good.
Is
Good.
to capital.
So we should have a capital I there. Well done. Okay, let's just check that we've got that correct. Good. Is there any post to take today? Yeah, we've got all of that right. Well done. So more rules about inverted commas. Excuse me. If direct speech is a complete sentence broken with some non-spoken text, you need to use a comma inside the speech marks after the first part of the text. So it's talking about this comma here. Okay, so I'll read out the sentence. If you finish the stock take, said Rupi, could you call the supplier to find out what has happened to yesterday's order? So the speech in that sentence is everything apart from said Rupi. Okay, so we've broken up Rupi's words by putting said Rupi in the middle of what he said, which again, as I've spoken about previously in both reading and writing lessons, we change things like the order of when things come in a sentence and vary that in writing to make it sound more interesting. If we always reported speech with said Rupi, said Joe, said whoever at the end of the speech, then it would become a bit boring. So it's just to add variety. And also if it's a long sentence that someone's saying out loud, it breaks it up. So if you finish the stock take, so we've opened the inverted commas, you can see there at the start. If you finish the stock take, we need a comma, close inverted commas, said Rupi. And then after he said that, we need a comma before we reopen the speech marks. Could you call the supplier to find out what has happened to yesterday's order? So full stop, close inverted commas. So has anyone got any questions about that sentence and about where the speech marks go and the commas?
I just want to ask,
Yeah.
Like with this example of statement, if you finished, does it have to come all the time when you use if with inverted comma?
Sorry, ask that question again. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Okay, with this example now,
Yeah.
right? It says if you finish the stock, if you finish stock take, right? Does the if that starts the sentence, does it have to come with inverted comma?
It's that part of the sentence, if you finish the stock take, that's the first part of what Rupi has said.
Okay,
So,
okay. That's what
so,
Rupi said.
Yeah. So if it's the spoken out loud part of the text, then it needs to be in inverted commas.
Okay.
So how should these sentences be punctuated? So we're thinking about which punctuation marks, full stops, question marks, and so on. Also capital letters and speech marks. And commas, of course. So how should this sentence be punctuated? Number one, can you stack the shelves first? Said Jenny, then tidy the storeroom.
Okay. Number one.
Yeah.
Inverted comma from can you stack the shelf first, close inverted comma. Said Jenny, comma, then inverted comma to then tidy up the store. Open and close with full stop.
So a full stop. So where does the full stop go?
After the room.
Good. So before we close the inverted commas. Well done. Yeah. Okay. So are there any other commas that we need in there?
Said Jenny.
Good. So after said Jenny, we have a comma before we reopen the speech marks.
Yeah.
And we've got another one that's missing.
Can you? Where is you?
No, not can you, because if it just started with you, so if it was like Jenny giving an order quite rudely saying you stack the shelves first, then we would use a comma after you. But because it's starting with can, we don't need to use a comma. So it's making a request rather than giving an order to someone. It's okay. So can you stack the shelves first, said Jenny. So the comma, the other comma goes after first. So when we break the speech like this, when we break it into two parts, we need a comma before we put said Jenny. So it's within the speech marks. So what else do we need to change?
T-H and then T and C.
Pardon? So the C, yeah, we should have a capital.
Yeah.
Not for the T, because it's all part of Jenny's sentence. So if what Jenny has said is, can you stack the shelves first, then tidy the storeroom? So that's one sentence. We've broken it up by putting said Jenny in the middle, but the sentence is carrying on. So it doesn't need it's not the start of a new sentence there. So we don't change that. What about the end punctuation? Can you stack the shelves first, then tidy the storeroom? So what type of sentence is that? So it's making a request. So it is rather than a full stop, what should we have at the end?
It's question mark.
Good. Question mark. Oh, that's gone a bit crazy. So it should be a question mark. Well done. Okay. So let's just check. Good. So we've got, so they haven't actually put a question mark in, but I think it's starting with can you. So it's asking, it's making a request. So I would put a question mark there. So sorry to interrupt, going on to number 2. Sorry to interrupt, said Tom, but can you show me how to use the scanner, please? So again, we've got some speech that has been broken up with telling us who is talking. So said Tom. So where should our punctuation and capital letters go?
Capital letter goes to sorry, S.
Good. So sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. Comma after interrupt.
Good.
Comma after Tom.
Excellent. Yeah. What should go at the end? So Tom's words are, sorry to interrupt, but can you show me how to use the scanner, please? Good. Question mark. And okay, well done. What about the speech marks, the inverted commas? Where should they go?
Right. This is where I'm a bit confused because the but is there.
Yeah.
And the question mark is there.
Yeah. So the punctuation of the speech is always within the speech marks. So if it's a question and it ends in a question mark, then the inverted commas go after the question mark. If it's a full stop at the end, they go after the full stop. So we can put those in. So we know they get the inverted commas at the end of the speech are going after the question mark. Where else do we need them?
Can.
Pardon?
We need it at can.
So
before can.
It's not before can. So sorry to interrupt, but can you show me how to use the scanner, please? So all of that, excuse me, is what Tom is saying out loud. So it needs to go before but, because but is part of his speech. Okay, so that's what Tom said. But can you show me how to use the scanner? And then what about the first part? Where are we putting the inverted commas?
From the start of the sentence. Sorry.
Good. So at the start, yeah.
And at the end of interrupt.
Good. And the comma is in the speech marks. So sorry to interrupt, said Tom, but can you show me how to use the scanner, please? Okay, let's just check. Okay, so again, it should be a question mark at the end, as we've done that. And the last one, excuse me, Emma said, have you got 5 minutes for a quick chat? So if we think about what Emma said in that sentence, which part of the sentence is out loud, that's going to help us know where to put the speech marks or the inverted commas. So Emma's speech is everything apart from Emma said. So, excuse me, have you got 5 minutes for a quick chat? So where should the punctuation go? So where should we open the inverted commas? So, excuse me, is that spoken out loud?
Yes.
Yes. So that needs inverted commas. And when we break the speech up, like we have here with Emma said,
Comma.
we need a comma before we close the inverted commas. It's a bit tricky here to see because there's not much space, but if you were writing it yourself, you'd have comma, inverted commas, and then a space before you wrote Emma said. So, excuse me, Emma said. And what needs to come after Emma said before we reopen?
Comma.
Comma. Have you got 5 minutes for a chat? So where are the inverted commas going?
After have. Before have, sorry.
Before, yeah, good. Have you got 5 minutes for a quick chat? So we'll close at the end. But what punctuation should we use at the end there?
Question mark.
Question mark. Good, because they're asking if this person has got 5 minutes for a chat. Have you got 5 minutes for a chat? It's a question. And now capital letters. Where should we have capital letters?
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Good, excuse. And any others? Or not?
No.
No. Okay, good. Excuse me, Emma said, have you got 5 minutes for a quick chat? Good. Well done, everybody. So inverted commas are also used to quote direct speech. So if you were quoting something that you had read, so rather than just direct speech, it's quoting something that's been written down. So the example here, these include an Eastern domed bathhouse with evidence of wall paintings excavated in 1938. So this is, someone is quoting from another source. So the source here is something written by Kul Muhammad, 2011. So this part here, doesn't work when I do that. Hold on. So this part in italics, from these to 1938, is something someone has written and they've included a quote from someone else's writing, Kul Muhammad. So he's used speech marks to directly quote the source. So there's another example here. They were used in complex urban sequences as well as undertaking hand-drawn building elevations and plans of the exposed structures. So the part in speech marks or inverted commas, undertaking up to structures, is somebody else's words that they've written. and then the 1, he'll reference that with who wrote those words. So if you paraphrase rather than quoting, so if you put it into your own words, you don't need speech marks. So this is if you are quoting from another text. If you copy a sentence or a couple of sentences that somebody else has written in a different text, then you need speech marks. If you put it into your own words, then you don't need speech marks. Any questions about that? So it's just another use of inverted commas to quote sources. And finally, a final use of inverted commas for effect. So sometimes you'll see single speech marks when they're used for effect. Sometimes you'll see double like we've been using. So a title or a name. So the little steamer crosses the river up to 12 times a day. So the little steamer is the name of a boat. So because they've put that in inverted commas just to highlight it's a name. It's probably painted on the side of the boat, that name. It's not just what the writer's calling it, it's its actual name. To cast doubt on something, so the so-called bill is nothing more than a smokescreen. So it's saying that it's not really a bill, so-called. And also similar to that, to mock or express sarcasm. So it could be something like the mansion. So it's probably best if I type. So for example, the mansion he lived in was a 1-bedroom flat. Okay, so in this sentence it's mocking or expressing sarcasm because somebody said they live in a mansion, but actually they live in a 1-bedroom flat. So it's just making fun of that word mansion because that isn't what it is at all, really. Okay, so these are just other examples that you might see and that you should be able to use yourself as well. So apostrophe. So we're going to watch a video about using apostrophes.
Starting apostrophes. Punctuation gives meaning to writing. Punctuation marks, like commas or semicolons, are not just squiggly marks on the page that we pop into our writing with our fingers crossed, hoping for the best. They help the reader to understand what the writer is saying and are used to clarify meaning in text. Apostrophes do 2 jobs, and only 2 jobs. In this unit, we will look at one of the jobs that an apostrophe does. It will get you started using basic apostrophes. Let's start with, what does an apostrophe look like? Well, this is an apostrophe. The apostrophe's first job is to show that something is missing. This job can be called a couple of names, such as omission. Omission comes from the root word omit, which means to leave out. Or contraction. Contraction means that a word has been shortened. Don't worry about the name, just worry about the job it does. Sometimes knowing the name can help you to remember how to use them, but it's not really important that you know it. You are probably using this kind of apostrophe all the time, but just don't realise that this is what is happening. Let's look at an example. Here we have the words do not. We want to make do not sound less formal, so we shorten the word to don't. We push the 2 words together, take out the letter O in not, and put an apostrophe in place of the O. Do not becomes don't. The apostrophe shows the reader that a letter is missing. Here's another example, this time taking out 2 letters. Take the phrase I will. Again, we want to sound less formal, so we shorten the phrase to I'll. We push the 2 words together, take out the letters W-I in will, and put an apostrophe in place of the W-I. I will becomes I'll. The apostrophe shows the reader that 2 letters are missing. Here are some more common examples. Should not becomes shouldn't. We have becomes we've. They are becomes their. It is becomes its. She had becomes she'd. Take care with these. Cannot is can't. Here you aren't putting 2 words together, just replacing missing letters with the apostrophe. Will not becomes won't. This is an irregular example and doesn't follow the rules. You need to learn this one. Must not, mustn't. This looks a bit strange when written, but it does follow the rules. Stick to what you know about these kinds of apostrophes and you can't go wrong. Shortened words are more common when we speak. We usually use this kind of apostrophe when we are writing something informal, such as a letter or email to a friend. Don't use shortened words and this kind of apostrophe in formal writing, such as a letter to someone you don't know, or in an essay or a report at work.
Okay, so apostrophes for omission. So like we've just seen there. So if you've taken something away. So omission means miss out. When apostrophe is used for omission, that means it's used in place of missing letters. So remember on the video, I will, and they removed WI, put an apostrophe in the place, and it became I'll. The apostrophe is never used to show something is plural. So if you're adding an S, because there is more than one of something, you never use an apostrophe. So which of these sentences use the apostrophe correctly? So I won't be able to work late tonight. So is that apostrophe used correctly in won't? So what do you think? Is that used correctly?
Yes.
Yes, well done. Good. Don't worry about the spreadsheet. Is that used correctly in don't?
Yes.
Yeah, well done. I can't find the clipboard. Well, we know straight away it's not used correctly because there isn't one. So where should it be?
Between N and T, can't.
Yeah.
Well done, yeah. Will send the parcels today. So
Correct.
is that used correctly in will?
Yeah.
Yep.
What would it be if we didn't have the apostrophe?
We will.
Good, we will. So it's used in place of the W and I in will. The company is known for its quality produce.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a new rule. We only, because we have the word it's, but it is, and it's an apostrophe showing possession, so something belongs to it. We only use an apostrophe in it's if it means it is. So that's, I think we're going to look at that. So it is. Okay, we have it. So if it's taking out the I of is, then we use it's. But so something belongs to it. So e.g. I don't know. So we're talking about a dog and its lead. We don't know if it's boy or girl. So So the dog's lead. We could have its lead. So instead of the dog, we've put its lead, and we don't use an apostrophe. So no. So we don't use an apostrophe to show possession. We only use an apostrophe for contraction in the word its. Okay.
Okay.
We'll look at that some more anyway. I'll be at lunch from 12 until 1. So is that used correctly in I'll?
Yes.
Yes, so it should be I will, but the contraction I'll, so well done. Okay.
Can I ask a question going back to that number 5?
Yeah.
Right. The company is known for its quality produce. Does it have to be ITS without the apostrophe?
Yes, so it should be, because it's showing possession, so the company is it. So
okay.
It's quality. So the quality produce belongs to the company. So it's showing possession. It's not a contraction. So to check which one it is, we could replace it with it is and see, does it make sense? The company is known for it is quality produce. That doesn't make sense. So it must be possession. The company is known for its quality produce. The quality produce belongs to the it or the company. So it's to show possession, but we don't use one. We don't use an apostrophe to show possession, only for it is. Okay. So we've got one more video to watch. Sorry, I'm just developing apostrophes.
Punctuation gives meaning to writing. Punctuation marks like commas or semicolons are not just squiggly marks on the page that we pop into our writing with our fingers crossed, hoping for the best. They help the reader to understand what the writer is saying and are used to clarify meaning in text. Apostrophes do 2 jobs and only 2 jobs. In this unit, we will look at the more challenging job of the apostrophe. It will give you more confidence in using the trickier kinds of apostrophes in your writing. Let's start with, what does an apostrophe look like? Well, this is an apostrophe. The apostrophe's second job is to show that something belongs to something else. This job can be called a couple of names, such as possession. Possession comes from the root word possess, which means to own something. Belonging. Belonging means that something in the phrase belongs to something else. But don't worry about the name, just worry about the job. Sometimes knowing the name can help you to remember how to use them, but it isn't really important to know it. You may be using this kind of apostrophe sometimes, but perhaps don't understand why you are really doing so. There are a few stages to understanding this rule, so we will take it a step at a time. Make sure you are happy that you understand each section before moving on. Otherwise you may get confused. Showing belonging with one owner. First we will look at showing belonging when there is only one owner. We have a boy. We have a blue ball. The blue ball belongs to the boy. If we wanted to write that in a sentence, we could say, the blue ball belongs to the boy. Or we could say, the boy's ball is blue. We know that the ball belongs to the boy, and to show this to the reader, we place an apostrophe followed by an S after the boy, the boy's ball. Here's another example. We have a bicycle. It has 2 punctured tyres. The tyres belong to the bicycle. If we wanted to write that in a sentence, we could say, the punctured tyres belong to the bicycle. Or we could say, the bike's tyres are punctured. We know that the tyres belong to the bike, and to show this to the reader, we place an apostrophe followed by an S after the bike. The bike's tyres. So, with this rule for apostrophes, you are always asking yourself, what belongs to what? Where do we put the apostrophes here? Tom's ice cream was delicious. Here, the apostrophe shows that the ice cream belongs to Tom. The chair's legs are broken. Here, the apostrophe shows that the legs belong to the chair. The girls played tennis. Did you want to put an apostrophe in this example? Be careful. There is nothing that belongs to anything in this sentence. Here, we just have a sentence about two girls who are playing tennis. Nothing belongs to a girl. And because there is no belonging, then there is no need to use an apostrophe. Do not put apostrophes everywhere you see the letter S at the end of a word. Make sure you are confident with this stage before carrying on to the next.
Okay. So that's to show possession. So possession means belonging to something, as in the examples given in the video. And when the apostrophe is used for possession, it means it shows to used to show belonging. So Simon's car broke down. Is the apostrophe used correctly? So here in
Yes.
yeah, because the car belongs
to Plymouth.
Good. The company's factory is purpose built. So does the factory belong to the company?
Yes.
Yes. So the apostrophe is used correctly. The black shoes are mine. Is this used correctly?
Yes.
What belongs to the shoes?
The shoes.
Oh,
It belongs to. It's mine.
no,
The
it's
shoes.
not.
No.
The
No.
black.
So how many shoes are there? The black shoes. Is there just one or is there more than one?
More than one, because
Good. So if it's more than one item, we do not use an apostrophe.
an apostrophe. Okay.
Yeah. And these are Ben's keys. So thinking about Ben, does something in that sentence belong to him?
Yes, the keys.
Good. So then we do need an apostrophe. The woman's bicycle was stolen.
Yes, correct.
Yes, good. Well done. The bicycle belongs to the woman. So where do the apostrophes go in these sentences? Sue's job is rewarding.
Goes after Sue's, after ES.
Good. Well done. So let's just, it's a bit tricky. Yeah, Sue should be Sue's. The shoes were worn. Does that need an apostrophe?
No,
No. Why not?
because it's two shoes.
Yes, because it's more than one shoe. It's plural.
Yeah.
It doesn't need an apostrophe. Good. The computer screens were cracked. Does that need an apostrophe? Does something belong to something else, or is it more than one?
It's more than one.
Good. So does that need an apostrophe?
No.
No. Good. The company's head office is in London. So we've got companies with an S at the end. Does something belong to the company, or is it a plural?
Something belongs to the company.
So does that need an apostrophe?
The company's no.
So
I think it does.
Yes. So where it does need one, you're right. Where will it go?
It goes between Y and S.
Good. So what belongs to the company?
Their office.
Good. We're talking about the company's head office.
Yeah.
So the head office belongs to the company, so we'd have an apostrophe in there. Well done. So it can be confusing, and here's some common mistakes. We've not too long left now. If you do need to leave because you have another lesson or for another reason, that's fine. We are recording, so it will go on. You'll have access to the recording probably during the week. So don't worry if you need to leave, that's fine. We'll just carry on now. We should only be a few more minutes. So some common mistakes here. The footballers ran on the pitch. Footballers. So nothing in that sentence belongs to the footballer. It just means there's more than one footballer. So no, footballers isn't possessive here. It's just the plural. It's just more than one footballer. So we do not need an apostrophe. The shop sold prawns sandwiches. No. So the prawns don't own the sandwiches. Don't worry about the compound noun. Just think about the words in the sentence and where the apostrophe goes. So the shop sold prawn. It should be just prawn sandwiches, not prawns. Okay. The sandwiches do not belong to the prawns, and prawns does not need an S anyway, because the plural is prawn. Okay, but it's regardless of that, we're just thinking about possession, and prawn sandwiches is what the sentence is talking about, and it's just a plural here, sandwiches. Okay, so because it's a plural, there's no possession, we don't need an apostrophe. The women's toilet was on the left. So here the apostrophe has come after the S, but this is wrong. It's an irregular plural. The apostrophe comes before the S. So women's should be before the S. So we've talked about this, but here it's good to consolidate that. So beware its and its. It with an apostrophe is used for it is, so contraction. It's time to go. I don't like it when it's cold. So it is time to go. It is cold. It's contraction, so we do need an apostrophe. It's used for possessive, does not need an apostrophe. The dog chased its tail. So the tail belongs to the dog, but because we're using it, we do not use an apostrophe. Its strength is its accuracy. Again, it's possessive, but with the word its, we don't use an apostrophe for possession. So some examples here. It's a bag. It is a bag, so that's correct. Its bag contained the blanket. So the dog's bag or its bag contained the blanket. Remember, we're not using an apostrophe for possession when the word is it. Her bag contained the blanket. I'm not sure why that example's there. We don't have it in that one. Okay, well, let's move on. But it and it, that's something to be very careful of. So colons are used like this. So to introduce lists, for example, there are 3 flavours available, colon, vanilla, mint, chocolate chip and strawberry, and we've got those commas between the items in the list. To introduce numbered lists or bullet points, so as above, avoid using unnecessary colons though, where a regular sentence would do. So if you're just listing a couple of items that you're having for lunch, then you don't need them. I want a coffee, sandwich and a bag of crisps. It should just be, you don't need the colon at all. And they can be used, so you will see them sometimes to introduce speech. So just like in this example, Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage. So usually you'll see a comma, but sometimes you may see a colon, and you can use that as well. So you need to bring the following items: a sleeping bag, a torch, and waterproofs. So where would the colons go? Or where would the colon go? There's just one. So it's missing from this sentence, the colon. Where would it go?
After item.
After
Good.
item.
Good, because items is a list. Following items is a list. So it goes after items. Good. The model for the Ford Model T, which was invented in the earliest 20th century, wasn't on display. So here we're not just talking about colons. We are talking about other punctuation we've looked at this morning. So the Ford Model T, which was invented in the early 20th century, wasn't on display. So there's something missing from that sentence.
Comma after century.
Excellent. So we should have a comma here after century, because that's the subordinate clause. In the words of Oscar Wilde, I'd rather be somewhere else. So what's missing? So we are reporting some words that Oscar Wilde said or wrote. So what should we?
Quotation mark.
Yeah. So quotation marks, which you'll also hear to use to describe inverted commas and speech marks. All of those things are correct. Around, we should have it around, I'd rather be somewhere else. Granny Smith apples are £1.85 per kilo. So what's incorrect in that sentence?
Comma after Granny Smith's.
No, we don't need a comma there, because the Granny Smith apples are a type of apple, so it's describing the apple. So is there something belonging to the apple, or is the apple plural? More than one?
It doesn't need comma.
It doesn't need not a comma. What's it got? What's apple's got that it doesn't need?
Column.
Apostrophe.
Apostrophe. Okay.
Yes,
So it's Granny Smith is a type of apple, so it's describing the apple. Granny Smith apples. There's nothing belonging to the apples there. It's just describing more than one. So we do not use an apostrophe for more than one. The school was nothing more than a shack. What's there that we don't need?
After the comma.
The commas. We don't need any commas in that sentence.
Yeah, we don't need commas. After the and school.
The children's clothes needed washing. So there's something missing. So because of time, I'm going to tell you which word it is.
Apostrophe on children.
Pardon?
The children's clothes needs washing. Apostrophe.
So where does the apostrophe go in children's?
After N.
Good. So the children's clothes needed washing. Beef's lasagna for tea.
No apostrophe.
No apostrophe and no S.
Yeah.
Because it's just beef lasagna. It's not beef's lasagna. The dog loved to chase its own tail. So the it in that sentence, is it possessive or is it more than one?
It's belonging.
So, pardon?
No S at the it's.
So we should have the S, but what's do we not need?
The dog loved to chase its.
So remember, with it, if it's showing possession, we do not use the apostrophe. If it's a contraction, we do. So the way to test that, replace it with it is and see if it makes sense. So let's read, is this a contraction? And it's correct with an apostrophe. The dog loved to chase its own tail. Does that make sense?
No.
No.
No. So we know that if that doesn't make sense. So it's possessive. It's talking about the dog's tail, its tail. So we don't need it, because remember, we only use an apostrophe in its if it's a contraction from it is. Okay, so if it's possession, we do not use an apostrophe for it. So that's just what we've done. So well done. So what do inverted commas do? Possession, separate lists, omission, or direct speech?
Direct speech.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also hear them called speech marks and quotation marks, but it's all the same. So commas are used to separate items in lists, help punctuate direct speech, separate parts of a sentence, or all of those.
A.
Yeah, well done. So all of those things. An apostrophe goes below letters, next to plurals, simple sentence, or above letters.
Above.
Good. Yep. Oops. Which sentence is correctly punctuated? So have a look at those. Which one has the correct punctuation? So think about possession does need an apostrophe, plural or more than one does not need an apostrophe.
Is it C?
D.
It is, well done. Why is it C? Can you explain to everyone else?
Because the ink belongs to the printer.
Well done. So we're showing possession, but we don't need one here because it's plural. Well done. So again, which sentence is correctly punctuated?
A.
Did you say A?
Yes.
Or, yes. So at the end, so can you work overtime this evening? We've got a question mark and a comma.
Yeah.
Do we need both of those? So we don't need the comma because we've already got a question mark. So we only ever use one punctuation mark to end a sentence. So it's a question mark and we don't need the comma.
Okay. D.
Well done. Yeah, so it's D. Good. Okay, so we've finished for today. Gone over a bit. Apologies for that. Hope you found it useful. There are some practice exercises to do if you log into Moodle, and you will be able to look at the recording in a few days as well. So hopefully I'll see you next Saturday for our reading session. Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you.
You too.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Bye.